This is lesson 3 of chapter 2, and we are going to go over the actual drawing tools today. Now, the first tool we have is over here in this little box. And the first tool we have is a pen. And if we go over here, I'm going to zoom in and draw its little line. And that is the pen. Now, we have all this little stuff down here. This is the options that you have for the pen. Right now we have it set to multiply, and I'm going to set it on normal. I'm going to zoom in, and if you look closely, I drew over multiple lines and it made that section darker. That's what multiply does. It goes over, and when you go over an area you've already colored, it makes that section darker. Now that I've set it to normal, I'm going to draw again, and it's no longer dark, and I can draw over it and sections will not become darker. We also have these little tools over here. This is the edge shape of your tool, of your pen tool. And we can make it really tiny, which is what we had, or we can make it kind of fat and round, and we can make it a little more square, and then we can make it really square. You can't really tell the difference too much. The differences are more noticeable in other tools, but in the pen tool, not so much. After that, but what you'll notice is when I change these though, the size, you can't really tell right now, but when you click on these different things, different head sizes, you notice that these down here change as well. This tool is more of a soft edge, and then this edge is more solid, and then as you go up, the solider it gets. So that's what those indicate as well. You can't really tell the difference sometimes, but that's what those tools do. Here, let's see if I can adjust these settings. If I change my size, I can either change my size two different ways. I can change it using this option, or I can use this change the size down here. We're going to use this option since it's first. We also have this little arrow, and this tells you how large your size is going to be. Right now we have 0.1, which is the smallest, and then you have this, which tells you how far you can go on the 0.1 side. And this goes all the way up to almost the next one. And if you notice when I did this, you can see my pen tool getting really tiny and then bigger. So we're going to try using these options again to see if we can't tell the difference. We're going to go to the bigger one now, and the even bigger one, and now the really square one. You still can't really tell the difference. And you notice that they're all selected on the 10 size now. The only difference you can kind of tell is that the first one that used the smallest edge is actually a little bit blurrier than the last one. That's about the only difference. The next size is even bigger than the 0.1. You keep getting bigger. And we're going to use a different color this time so we can see it better. And now you can really see the difference. You can see the blurry edges. So we're going to click the next edge shape, and that's less blurry. And now we're going to click the other one, and now it's smoother. And we're going to click the last one, and now it's the smoothest. So it goes from really fuzzy to smooth. And that's what that does. You can't really tell the difference too much when it's really small, but the bigger you get in size, the easier it is to tell. And then we have the largest 5.0, and it goes all the way to 100, and that's about the biggest it can get. And we have it over at 500 here. And that is the biggest that can get. We also have down here, after that, we're going to make this a smaller size now. And we have minimum size and density. This, when you're drawing, you can make this to where your pen has some pressure to it. Density, basically, it's similar to transparency almost, except for you can't really see through it. It's just how dense it is. So the less dense it is, the lighter the color gets. And it is transparent. The minimum size, if you're using a different tool other than the pen tool, will give you different edges. So that means it would be really small, and then you could make it really big. When I move on to another tool, I'll give you a better example of that. But for now, we'll just leave it at 100%. The next option is, you see simple circle and no texture. What this is what type of brush tool you're using. It's the almost similar to texture. We have all these different options too. We have simple circle is what we've been using, and we go to fuzzy static, and it changes. Can't really see it. Let's go to something else. Or noise. Pen tool probably isn't the best for showing these. Okay, well, let's do this one. This one's easier. This is the fine and pointy. Tries to mimic like a brush. We have like different ones. We have spread, which these are better. The fuzzy static, noise, spread, and bristle. Is it bristle? No. It's just fuzzy static, noise, and spread are easier on like stuff like the airbrush or the brush tool. You can't really see it because the pen tool is meant to behave like a pen, and pens don't really do that. So it doesn't do it as well as some of the other tools. But we have some different options. We got different fine brushes, and then we have some middle brushes, which are a bit thicker. And then we have some round brushes. They're supposed to imitate. And then we have some stringy brushes. And then we got an uneven one. And then we have some X-shape brushes, which is pretty cool. A cross, an arrow, so those are the different brushes you can actually choose from. And we actually have this little thing over here that adjusts how much of the brush you can see. If you go to 0, you'll see all the little lines, and then if you go all the way up, it's a thick brush. Okay, and then next we have texture. This is we got paper texture, canvas texture. So when you're painting, you can do like the texture on the brush. And then we got regular paper. So those are the textures. We're gonna go back to simple circle. You know, some of the brushes don't actually have these options. So if you choose some of these different heads, you might not be able to use those. Basically, when you get to the actual brush types, rather than spread, noise, and fuzzy static, then you can't really use these. We're going to go to simple circle. We're actually going to clear this, so I'm going to hit the eraser clear layer so we have a nice new canvas to work with. After the textures and brushes, we got advanced settings. You can either hide this or show it. This is the plus minus here. You just left click on it, and then you'll see quality, edge hardness, minimal density, and maximum density. Whoops. And then you have hard and soft. And then you have press, dense, and size. Quality. Over here, if you click down the little arrow, it'll give you the fastest to smoothest. The fastest would be the least quality. So it draws the fastest, and then you get the smoothest, which blends it better. You can't really tell too much. Let's zoom in. So that's the smoothest, and that's the fastest. Can't really tell too much of the difference, but in other brushes you can. I'll show you some of the other brushes with this setting so you can see it better, but the pen tool doesn't show some of the settings that good. Then we have edge hardness, which is 100% right now, and if we move it to 0, the edge gets softer. It's less edgy looking. And then we have minimum density. Go to 100. So, and then go minus. It's but we have to change the max density with that. So basically shows you how dense something can be. It's really similar to this up here, except for you have more control over it. It also helps with when you're using a pen tool, not a pen tool, let me be more specific. There's a tool on here called the ink pen, and when you're using that, it automatically gives you a small, it's like pressure sensitive brush, and it gives you really fine points to really thick lines, and that's what this is good for. When you have max density and minimum density, it'll make those points either finer or thicker. And we also have hard and soft, which is also talking about the brush. So right now we got at soft, and if we go all the way that way, it's hard. Hard is this way, soft is this way. And you got edge hardness, and then we have density and size. You can click to see those or use them. So that's it for all the actual options. Let's go over some of the other brushes so you can see what I was talking about in, we're going to clear this, talking about in some of these options here. Let's use the airbrush next. This is a really soft brush. Right now we have it on noise. And we'll take that and put it on a simple circle so you can see what it looks like without the noise. And that's it using a simple circle. And fuzzy static. That's what it was supposed to look like, but the pen tool doesn't really do it. And then we also have spread. And then we have all the other brushes we went through. This brush doesn't really do these types of brushes as well as the pen, but it does the fuzzy static and spread a lot better. And we also have the textures that I already showed you, and the canvas and the paper, which is pretty cool. And then, okay, let's see if I can show you. We got max density. So see how thick it is now? And then if we take that off and go min density, now it's taking a lot longer to build up the density. It's like really light. Now if we do both, it's going to go for it's going to be dense, really dense. And if I take it off, it's going to take longer to get to that dense, really dense level. Taking both off, it's going to be, you're not even going to be able to see it. So put a little density there and you can barely see it. And that's what that does. You can also, I mentioned this earlier, you can also adjust how much you can see of the paper or canvas. And that's the paper one. You can't really see that on the pen. Let's clear this and clear it. Okay, now we're going to go back to the advanced settings. So this is the fastest. Let's actually make this a bit denser. This is fast, and this is the smoothest. Can't really tell because we're on fuzzy stack right now. Let's put this back on. It says this is the smoothest, and this is the fastest. Zoom in. Oop. Grab our little hand here. And you can't really tell too much of the difference. This one is slightly blended better. It's smoother around the edges, but only slightly. Go back to the brush and go back to the smoothest, and we're going to go to edge hardness. And as you can see, now the edge is hard on the airbrush tool. And if we go back to the smoothest, it is now soft. To the softest edge. We're going to go minimum density is at full, so now it's going to be really hard. If we go back, it's going to be soft. It's going to take longer to get there. I go all the way up. It's going to be denser. And if I go all the way here, it's also going to be dense. If I have them both at 100, it's going to be really dense. Okay, we're going to clear this again, and then we're going to go to hard and soft. This is the hardest, and then this is the softest. And that's it for the airbrush tool. Now we're going to clear it. Now we're going to move on to the brush. Now the brush actually has blending options. So this is the brush as we got it. So we're going to clear this. And this has, I forgot to mention some of the other options in here. We'll just do it with the brush. We have vivid, deep, and multiply. We already went over multiply, so let's go over vivid. Vivid just makes your colors brighter, and then deep also makes your colors more rich. Let's see if we can't. So that's deep. This is vivid. kind of hard to tell the difference, but that's what they do. Okay, and we're going to clear this. We're going to put it back on normal. And now with the brush, we're going to use a spread. And with this, you can go with blending, and there's dilution. Blending is how well it blends with the other colors, and then dilution is it gets diluted, like it gets diluted with the other colors. Like rather than being blended in a nice smooth color, it gets muddy or picks up colors that you don't really want it to. I mean, it doesn't sound like it should be used, but it should be. Right now it's being diluted by the white, and if I take this all the way off, it's not being diluted by the white. If I put this all the way up, you can't even see it, and then if I go back, you can see that it's like white now because it's being completely diluted by the white. Now, if I have this all the way up and I start using the brush tool on this section, it gets diluted with that color somewhat. Same here. And now it's completely diluted with the orange, and now I'm painting completely orange. And now if I go back and I just keep clicking, it's being completely diluted. Now if I take that off, I'm just coloring orange, and I have blending all the way up. Now if I go and take off some of the blending, it won't blend as well. And if I take all the way up, it will blend better. Picks up the colors better and blends. And then persistence is is how much it will pick up that color. When I take it off, it doesn't use this color as much, so it's less persistent. But if I do this, it's going to pick up more of that color, so it's more persistent with the color that I have selected. And we also have keep opacity, so that will keep the opacity on the color. Take that off, and that's really all for the blending options. And then we have watercolor, which has an extra option as well, which is smoothing. And when you can use the watercolor for blending out and making edges soft and blending it better. This is what most side tool users use to blend their stuff better. You make it larger and you can blend in all the colors that I was trying to blend together with the brush tool. So now it's all perfectly blended. And smoothing is like talking about the edges. Go all the way to 100, and it's going to be really smooth. You see that? And take it off, and now the edges are rougher. Soft, rough. And it's easier to blend when you have the smoothing at 100. And that's pretty much it for the water tool. You can adjust all the settings like you can do with all the other brushes. We have marker, which is pretty much has blending and perseverance. I mean, not perseverance. It has blending and persistence. And just like some of the other tools. This is the marker by itself. We're going to clear this, Actually, let's undo that. We have the eraser tool. And basically, it erases the color. You can also adjust the settings on the eraser as well. You can make it bigger, you can change the hardness of it. So that's a benefit. And then we also have these select and deselect tools. I didn't go over them in the other lesson because they were in there. These are more like brushes for the select. And they have settings as well. And you can select your color. You can select whatever you want by coloring it. And then if I want to deselect, I can erase what I've selected. Now, you may be thinking, it just looks like a blob of purple. It doesn't even look like a selection. Well, that's one of the unique features about Psy. Instead of just having where it's just lines, it actually gives you like a color of the selection. And to see that it's selected, you click on a different tool and now it's a little line. And then if you click back on the select, it is now a purple blob, which you can completely erase. But it's easier just to go to the selections clear, because if you erase sometimes, not all of the selection will get erased like that. So it's best just to clear it when you're done, unless you're trying to get very accurately something. Like if you're accurately trying to like select all of this, then you might want to use the deselect tool. See how this kind of comes out of the edge? Then you'd use the deselect tool to kind of just like get that better, even though I totally failed. But that's basically what you'd use it for. And then we have the paint bucket tool. And this is similar to the selection tool. Basically, you can adjust it to how well you want your bucket to work. So we're going to go on color difference, since we're working with color here. And I want to dye this blue. So I'm going to, right now this is selected at 0. I can change this if I want. So it's going to be very specific in colors. So if I want to just go whoop, like if I want to select a larger area, I can make that easier, and it's just going to select everything. I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to go about halfway, and now it's going to select majority of this. And then we, of course, we have the other selections, and then we also have the selection source. It's pretty much the same thing as the selection tool, except for you're using colors rather than selection. So you can just, now we have a big gray blob. And that's really all that is. Then we have binary. And this one's a little different. It is, it doesn't really blend. We have these options here, coarse or accurate, which we got color picker, and it just stays solid colors. It doesn't really blend, and it stays with a really hard edge. Then you go normal. Basically, when it chooses its color. Yeah, of course. We have opacity. It's not really, basically the opacity just like lightens the color. You can't really see through it, and it doesn't blend with anything. So that's what binary does. can't see through it, you can't blend anything with it, it's just solid color. Okay, and then the next tool we have, we're going to erase this, we have the ink pen, which I mentioned earlier. We're going to go to smoothest and we're going to use black. And we're going to go to a hard edge. And we're going to make this smaller. And we're going to, okay. I think this also might not be working, because I am using a mouse. If you're using a tablet, then you would get pressure sensitive strokes, which give you smaller sizes and then a thicker size. Let me hook mine real quick. Okay, I have my tablet now, so now you can see the stroke difference. Mouse, and this is a tablet. So this is what the minimum size and maximum size are for. So now it's thicker, and now it's smaller, and that is what it's for. We also have it down here. Density, so I can't get too dense. And now my line is gray and not black because it's not dense with color. And that is the pen tool. It basically has all the same settings as that's the ink pen tool, and then it has the same settings as a pen. Oop. We're gonna go to the smallest on here, and the pen doesn't really have different, and stays the same size. It doesn't really do what the pen tool does. It doesn't get different sizes. Oh, I stand corrected. It does get different sizes. You just have to adjust the settings. And that is the pen tool with some pressure. Okay. Next we have the Copic, which is basically a marker, but it acts like a very certain marker called Copic markers. This one just acts like a regular marker. This one acts like a Copic. Copics are easy to blend. It has a blending option here. And persistence. It's got all the same settings as all the other tools. That's basically what Copic is, and it blends easily. So if you want to get like that marker Copic feel, if you're used to using real Copics, this is supposed to mimic that. And our next tool would be Water 9, and this acts slightly different from the other watercolor. the water option. And we also have this watercolor. You can have them all different settings. Then we have oil watercolor. And you change all the dilution and density. And that's basically all of the tools with the watercolors. We have acrylic. Put it back on normal settings. They're just supposed to act like acrylic paint. And we also have paper. We have crayon, which is supposed to act like crayon. Then we have blur. This is another blending tool a lot of site users use to blend in tools or blur edges. And as you can see, I am blending that edge that I created in the color. And it also has similar options to some of the other tools we went over, like the smoothing. And we also have pencil, which is supposed to mimic a pencil. It also does really good pressure, just like the ink pen. And then lastly, we have another brush. And we have all of the settings. And that is it for all the tools and all the tool options. And I will see you in the next lesson.